Welcome back to the Jack Colton Show. Today's episode is unlike any other. My guest is someone who stumbled upon a place many people think only exists in stories. The Café at the edge of the world. A place where time slows and life begins to ask the questions you've been avoiding. Michael Harper, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jack. Honestly, I still don't fully understand how I ended up there or what that place really was.
Let's start from the beginning. Where were you headed that day?
I was supposed to be driving down to a remote Airbnb cabin for a week-long digital detox. No phone, no laptop, no clients, just me and some books. But somewhere along the way, my GPS glitched out. I took a wrong turn, or maybe a right one, depending on how you look at it.
And that's when you saw the cafe.
Yeah, there was this wooden sign nailed to a tree, Café 1 mile. No logo, no name, just that. I hadn't seen a gas station for miles, and I was low on fuel and energy. Something about it drew me in. It felt like the road was leading me there on purpose. Describe it for us. What did it look like? Like something out of a dream. A rustic wooden building, almost hidden in the trees. The porch was wide with 2 rocking chairs. The door creaked when I opened it. Inside, warm lighting, the smell of fresh coffee, shelves filled with books, and 3 small tables. At the far end was a chalkboard with the menu, but that wasn't the first thing I noticed.
What was?
A question, written in big white letters on the wall. Why are you here?
That's quite the greeting. Why are you here? Not your typical cafe motto.
Exactly. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood there just staring at it. I thought I was just stopping for coffee, but that question, it felt personal, like it was meant only for me.
Did anyone greet you?
Yeah, eventually. A woman named Casey came out from the kitchen. She had a calm energy about her, like she'd seen 1,000 people come and go, and nothing surprised her anymore. She just smiled and asked, "First time here?" I nodded. She pointed me to a seat near the window.
What was the atmosphere like?
Quiet, but not in an empty way. It felt full, like the space had its own heartbeat. There was a man already sitting at another table, reading a book. He looked up and gave me a small nod. And that was it. No rush, no menu shoved in my face, just space to think. Did you talk to anyone? Eventually, yes. That man, his name was John. We started chatting, and before I knew it, an hour had passed. He told me he used to be in advertising, very successful, very stressed, until he found this cafe, or maybe it found him. He said, this place helps you ask the right questions, not for answers, but for clarity.
So what did you talk about?
Meaning, purpose, the difference between living and existing. He asked me questions no one had ever dared to ask, not even myself. Are you doing what you're meant to do? What would you do if you had no fear? I felt exposed, but safe.
That sounds intense. How did you respond to those questions?
At first, I deflected. I said things like, I'm just tired from work, or maybe I just needed a break. But John wasn't buying it. He just kept listening, really listening. And the silence between his words made me reflect more than any advice ever could.
What was your life like before this encounter?
Busy. I was freelancing nonstop, working 12, 14-hour days, clients in different time zones, deadlines always pressing. I told myself I loved the hustle, but I think I was addicted to being needed. It gave me a false sense of control. But the truth? I was drained. My creativity felt like a tap, slowly running dry.
And you hadn't really acknowledged that until this cafe?
No. That place held a mirror up to my life, and what I saw scared me. I'd built everything around performance, achievements, validation, chasing projects that meant nothing to me personally. Sitting there with a cup of coffee in my hand and John across from me, I realized I didn't even remember the last time I felt joy for no reason.
Wow. So what happened next?
John asked me another question. He said, if you could wake up tomorrow and be anywhere, doing anything, with no limits, what would that look like? I didn't know how to answer. I'd never let myself imagine without boundaries.
That's a powerful moment.
It was. I think that's when it clicked. I wasn't living my life, I was managing it. And the cafe, this strange little place in the woods, was the first place that invited me to just be.
Did you start to come up with answers, or did the questions linger?
They lingered. I think that was the point. This wasn't a place of solutions. It was a place of awakening. John told me, don't rush to fix everything. Let the questions live with you a while. That hit me hard. I'd always been the kind of person who needed the next step, the next plan. But here, I was learning to sit with the unknown.
Did anything change physically in the cafe, or did it all happen inside you?
Both. Time moved differently there. At one point, I looked out the window, and the trees seemed to sway in slow motion. The light shifted, golden, soft. It was like the world outside was holding its breath. And inside me, something softened. I started thinking about when I was a kid, how I used to draw for hours and lose track of everything. I hadn't touched a sketch pad in years.
Did you share that with John?
Yeah, I did, and he smiled, not in a pitying way, but like he understood exactly what I meant. He said, the things you loved before the world told you what to love, that's where your soul lives. That line has stayed with me every single day since.
Did you feel like the cafe was real, or something more symbolic?
Honestly, I still don't know. It felt real. The warmth of the coffee, the creak of the floorboards, the way the sun filtered through the window. But it also felt timeless. Like I had stepped into a place that existed outside of everything I knew. Maybe it was both. Maybe it was real because it was meaningful.
So when you left, did it feel like you were saying goodbye to something? Real or a dream?
It felt like I was stepping out of a dream I didn't want to end. But at the same time, I had this quiet knowing that it wasn't really goodbye. John walked me to the door, and before I stepped out, he said something that gave me chills. He said, now that you've seen the horizon, don't go back to staring at the floor. I didn't even reply. I just nodded and walked into the trees.
Where did you go next?
Back to my car, which, by the way, I never actually remembered parking. But it was there, right where I left it. The road back to the highway looked different, clearer, brighter. And on the drive home, I didn't turn on any music or podcasts like I usually do. I just drove in silence, thinking, letting it all sink in.
And when you got home, what did you do?
I opened my closet, pulled out my old art supplies, and started sketching again. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Over the next few weeks, I cleared out half my client list. I took time off, I read, I painted, I even took a trip alone to the coast, something I hadn't done since college. It was like I'd found the reset button I didn't know I was looking for.
So that one encounter changed your whole life.
It didn't change everything overnight, but it gave me permission to begin, to live with intention instead of inertia. And even now, years later, when things get noisy again, I remember the cafe. I remember the questions. And somehow, that brings me back to center.
What do you think the cafe really is, Michael? I mean, people will hear this and wonder, was it a real place, a dream, a metaphor?
I've asked myself that 1,000 times. But here's what I've come to believe. It doesn't matter. Whether it was a physical place tucked away in some magical corner of the world, or something my soul conjured up when I needed it most, the impact was real. The clarity I walked away with was real. That moment of pause, of reckoning, it changed the course of my life. Would you go back if you could? Part of me wants to say yes, to sit in that warm light, to drink that perfect coffee again, to hear John's voice. But another part of me knows the cafe did its job. It gave me what I needed when I needed it. And I think if I ever do go back, it won't be because I went looking. it'll be because I'm ready again.
What would you say to someone who feels like they've lost their direction in life?
I'd say stop running from the silence. Sit with it. Ask yourself the big questions, even if they scare you, especially if they scare you, because the answers aren't in the noise. They're in the stillness. And if you're lucky, maybe, just maybe, you'll stumble across a little cafe at the edge of the world that reminds you who you really are.
Michael, thank you for this. I think you've just brought a little bit of that cafe into all of our lives.
Thank you, Jack. I hope so.
Well, folks, that's all for today's episode of the Jack Colton Show. If you've ever felt lost, stuck, or unsure why you're even doing what you're doing, maybe this was the reminder you needed. Maybe this was your cafe moment. Take a breath, ask the questions, and when the world gets loud, remember, meaning doesn't shout, it whispers. I'm Jack Colton, and I'll see you next time. Until then, stay curious.